Good morning and welcome to our service. We hope you have a meaningful experience and will join us again. If you would like to learn more about how to become active and engaged in our community, please contact me, Tina Lewis, at tlewis@unitytemple.org. Or you can fill out a visitor form at the welcome table located in the foyer at Unity Temple or on our website at www.unitytemple.org. I look forward to being in touch with you soon, and I hope you enjoy the service.
Good morning. My name is Rich Picorni, and my pronouns are he and him, and I serve on the Board of Trustees here at Unity Temple. I'm delighted to welcome you here this morning, and especially to welcome the unicorn up in the upper balcony there. If you're joining us for the first time, thank you for attending. I invite you to email Tina Lewis to learn more about us, tlewis@unitytemple.org. She can answer questions you might have. Following the service, we invite you to join in our community hour if you're here in person. If you are attending online, our normal community hour, also known as coffee hour, will not happen. Instead, we will have the opportunity for a community conversation hosted by our 8th Principle group. They will present information about the proposed 8th Principle and offer facilitated small group discussions. Anyone can attend, even if you have not previously RSVP'd. It will go from noon to 1:30. We ask people to sign into the Zoom link found in the e-beacon by about 11:45 so they can get organized. The noon start will allow time for those of you who are here in person to return home and log on. The Reflecting with the Board will start after the 8th Principle meeting at 1:30. The link is also in your e-beacon. Join this Zoom call to find out what your Board of Trustees is working on and to ask questions. We appreciate everyone here in person wearing masks to protect all of us, especially the most vulnerable. If you need a break from wearing the mask, you can step outside onto the patio. At Unity Temple, our values are connection, transformation, justice, and acceptance. We seek to embody these values in our daily lives by welcoming all, inspiring compassion, nurturing wonder, and serving community. Thank you. May you find hope, encouragement, and meaning in today's service, and carry these with you throughout your week. Now, please take a moment to greet each other here in the sanctuary or in the chat online.
Our Chalice lighter today is Sunhar Tan. Sunhar joined Unity Temple 18 years ago this month, and she's been part of a small group Chalice circle for almost that long. She's a member of our BIPOC Friends group, and she is currently reading Kindred by Octavia Butler. We are Unitarian Universalists. This is the church of the open mind, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. We take care of the planet Earth and each other.
Now let us enter sacred space together. Relax into your seat, breathe comfortably, and just be here now. If what follows is a poem, I would name it Unseen Shaping. I'm often left wondering, why did I do that? Where did that come from? Sometimes insight appears. Usually I lurch on to the next thing when I can be left wondering again. I'm in control, I like to think. Such a comforting thought, but why did I do that? Where did that come from? Why? Was it gene pool? Was it messaging from people or screens? Or was it life happening all around me? Yes. Sometimes I need to know why. Sometimes. Sometimes I just need to remember. Remember to witness with curiosity. Remember, why did I do that? Remember to cut myself some slack. Sometimes I need intention to learn, intention to grow, intention to do better. May remembering and intention guide us toward a more fully conscious life. May it be so. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. Come, let us worship together on this wonderful day.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Because we're building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Do with me. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And now, please join me in reciting our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
I am Kathy Clark, not Jay Cohen, and I'm one of your pastoral associates. Jay will be with you next week. Holding each other is the time in our service where we pause to share and reflect on the joys and sorrows in our lives, those moments that have moved our spirit throughout the week. As a community whose mission commits us to inspiring compassion in our lives and in our church, we wish to companion you and sit with you in times of joy and sorrow. To share a milestone or event in your life to be included in the service, please email pastoralassociates@unitytemple.org by Friday evening. In the sanctuary, you can light one of the candles on the Chalice table before the service as a symbol of remembrance or celebration. Online, you may share joys and sorrows in the live chat. This week, Jan Johnston shared that her 99-year-old mother died this past Monday. Lois Treasure Clark was a treasure house kind of person. Her friends from the South Bend, Indiana League of Women Voters and an interfaith women's dialogue group have conveyed how much they learned from mentoring by Lois. A lifelong peace activist, Lois worked at Head Start in South Bend for 31 years. She was not a fan of the pandemic, calling it the pandemic, even though she was not a person to swear. Please hold Jan and her family in your hearts. Violence touches the lives of many people, both inside and outside our community. We hold in our hearts all those whose lives have been impacted by violence as either victims or perpetrators. Let us also hold in our hearts the joys and sorrows unspoken but present in our community as we enter together into a moment of contemplation and reflection. At the last minute this morning, I switched out my reading that I had prepared for something perhaps a little more timely. This is a condensation from 7 Ways the Concept of Football is a Metaphor for Life by Kinsey Roberts on the Odyssey online. Number 1, life is complex. Football and life are both complex. Football is a mini replica of life. 2, life is possible. It may seem daunting, but you can catch up and bounce back. 3, there is always time. It is never too late. 4, loyalty and unconditional love. Fans don't give up on their team, and they love their team even when they lose. 5, optimism. You can always do better next week. 6, miracles are possible. Comebacks happen, even sometimes when it takes a Hail Mary. If you do tune into the Super Bowl, enjoy the game, the halftime show or the ads, and in particular the nachos. And may the warmth of this community extend to all who are rejoicing or hurting in our larger world.
if you would like to come up, we're going to be doing something a little different for our time for all ages than a story, but it'll still be a little fun. We're going to use colored sand, so please come forward if you'd like. Good morning. You can come sit. We've got a few more coming. Wonderful. Can someone tell me what is in this vase here? Do you see what's in here? Yes. Dirt, you're right. What happens when dirt is healthy? Can things grow in it? Yeah, like we can get good food out of good dirt, right? Well, for thousands of years, Native Americans have lived on this land where we're sitting on right now, and they have shared this land with each other, and they grew good food, and they worked with their animal brothers and sisters to bring balance to our planet. And then, a long time ago, Europeans came from Europe, and they thought they had a better way of doing things. And so the first thing that they did when they came is they took the land and they decided that they were going to own it rather than sharing that land. And so they took it over and they controlled it and they put it into different plots and different people owned different parts of it. And there's a big fancy word for what this is called. It's called colonization. And so these Europeans added colonization to the soil. And then they added something else. They thought they brought a new way of being together as people. And so this one way that they brought was not allowing women to own property or to have jobs or to vote. This also has a really big word. It's called patriarchy. And they added patriarchy to the soil. Patriarchy is a fancy word for the idea that men are better than women. So what did they add next? They saw this rich soil down here and they said, oh great, we can grow all of these things, but we don't actually want to grow them ourselves. And we don't want to pay anyone to grow these things. So we are going to go to Africa and we are going to take the people from Africa and we're going to bring them over on ships and we are going to bring slavery to America. And so they added slavery to the soil. And over time, they added a whole bunch of other things. They added things like not letting people love who they want to love. They made it difficult for people who have disabilities to be in this world. They made it difficult for poor people to earn money. They made it difficult for people to vote, whether you are a person of color or you are poor. They put people in prison for very small reasons and not big things. And they started to pollute our air and our water and our soil. That's a lot of things, huh? Yeah. What happened to our soil? Do you think it can grow good things? Yeah. Yeah, unfair things. You're right. So I have a word for all of these things, and there's a lot of them, right? It's called supremacy. And supremacy is a big word that means that a small group of people get to make decisions for everybody, even if it's not fair or right. A small group of people get to make decisions for everybody. Is that fair? No. Now, over time, we've changed some of these things, right? So women can vote, right? And we don't have slavery anymore. And that's good because it means we could take out a little bit of that sand that they gave us, right? But there's still a lot there, a whole bunch of things there. You see all those colors? Yeah. We have to get rid of the rest of that sand, don't we? How do you think we can do that? How do you think we can get back to the soil? Yeah. We can get back by making things fair. Yes, Isla. That's all right. So one way we can make things more fair is by letting women do what they want with their bodies, by letting people have better ways to get out of jail when they do small little things, right? There's a lot of ways that we can help do things. But if I am the only one here digging out sand, does that work very well? No. Now, what would happen if you all had spoons and you could all help me? It would be fair, right? And we could all work together. And then, if we work together, maybe we can get to the bottom. And what's at the bottom? Dirt. And what happens when we get to the dirt? Yeah. Things can grow. Things like love.
Yeah, things can grow of good things.
Yes. Yes, we can grow good food for ourselves and be healthy and fair. Thank you so much for helping me with this. Do you think you can help me work in the world to make the world more fair? Yeah. Great. I'm so excited to have you as my partners. All right, shall we go to a time for all ages? Come on.
Good morning. My name is Ralph Lee. I'm here to discuss, not so much to discuss, but to begin a long discussion of the proposed eighth principle of Unitarian Universalism, what my immediate feelings about it were, and why and how I feel we should adopt it. The proposed eighth principle states, and this is rather long, listen carefully, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. That last part, I want to say it again. By our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Although you may not like everything about the way this principle reads, and I certainly don't, it's important that we not get caught up in changing the proposed words to ones that better suit our preferences, but rather to keep our focus on the spirit and meaning of this principle. Before entering into a discussion about the meaning of the eighth principle, we must keep in mind the process that the UUA has committed itself to. We only have two practical options. We must either approve or reject the principle. It is not feasible for us to attempt to change any wording because with approximately 1,000 congregations voting on this issue, including over 150 congregations who have already adopted the principle, it's difficult to conceive of reaching agreement on the wording of a single statement within our lifetimes. After all, we are UUs. My own greatest fear is not that our congregation may fail to approve the adoption of that principle. I fear the opposite situation, that we might concentrate on the fact that we have no substantial reason to reject the proposal, and that we will quickly vote for its approval with little or no serious discussion, and then pat ourselves on the back for this accomplishment. Why would I not welcome such a rapid approval as a legitimate achievement? Because if we fail to do certain things before we vote for approval, we will accomplish little more than putting empty words on a banner. What do I hope to gain from this process around the eighth principle? First, I hope that we will engage in conversation about real-world changes that we might expect to see as a result of adopting this principle. How might our governance change, or religious education, or our membership activities? Adopting the eighth principle is a commitment to systemic change, which will impact our practices throughout the congregation. This is not about getting larger numbers of people of color in our membership, but about deepening our understanding and practices to be truly welcoming to people of many identities and races. Second, I hope we will achieve widespread engagement from a majority of our members who understand the need and are willing to work for systemic change in our congregation and in our community, with our community partners in our justice work. Third, I hope we will explore what accountability looks like. How will we honestly attempt to hold ourselves and each other accountable for doing our best to accomplish our goals? Shouldn't we clarify what those goals are? In my opinion, unless we dig deep into our history, into the soil of the many types of supremacy that we have, and develop in-depth understandings and commitments of what it means to live our covenant and principles, hopefully all 8 of them, our words will mean nothing more than slogans on a political banner. In answer to the question, don't the other 7 UU principles adequately cover racism and other oppressions? My answer is simply, how has that been working for us over the past 35 years? I hope you will join me and the eighth principle team in learning more and discussing the eighth principle and what it means for our future as individuals, as a congregation, and for our community and our country. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Ralph, for your words. Thank you, Ativa, for your music. I'm Molly from Forest Park. My 7-year-old and I joined Unity Temple around 2018, just after we moved to Forest Park from the city. So we're relatively new, both to this congregation and to Unitarian Universalism. This morning, I'd like to share my reasons for getting involved in supporting the eighth principle. So I'm involved not just because I think it's necessary that we dig deeper into our racial justice work and commitments to anti-racism, but because I worry it could even do harm if we don't. Here's why I think that. Without a framework of ongoing anti-racist work and learning, integrations of diversity can be pretty weak and even risk centering whiteness. They can do this insofar as they are only about changes to quantity or content and representation. Not only that, but within a relatively, but by no means exclusively, upper middle class area of the world, a culture of achievement combined with a distinctly white performance anxiety about getting it right, or appearing diverse or multicultural can create an opportunity for white people to achieve something. To be self-satisfied when intergroup relations seem more diverse, as if something could be checked off a list. But without addressing inequities, systems of privilege, and the direct lived experience of everyone in the community, I risk endorsing integration and multiculturalism as if, or only insofar as it remains tolerable to, and even complementary to me, which is not good. So that's a lot to say for my first time speaking to you all from here. But I think about it a lot, and I'm very much in the process of sorting these thoughts out. Another way to say what I'm thinking is this. In a quote from Hannah Kim Sions and Courtney Wolfgang, they write, "Without anti-racist work, diversity efforts will be superficial, like a movie set made of cardboard. It may appear authentic, but it'll take little to knock it down, end quote. The authors point out further that anti-racist learning and training can't just be about language or action policing from white person to white person as if we were in a stage play practicing a mere performance. So, to my mind, the eighth principle is an invitation to real transformation and an invitation to work, not a program that ends in an accomplishment of some sort. So part of the work for me so far has been to remember that reading any one book doesn't count as the diploma on anti-racism. The resources are absolutely a moving river. They evolve through inevitable dialogue and critique. And on the other hand, it isn't just about the books. I've been engaging the materials in the resources online available through Unity Temple, and they're good. And they lead to many different types of activities and actions. And they'll no doubt change and move along with the conversation. So the eighth principle, to my mind, is an evolving, fluid, and good kind of work. It goes far beyond just learning and reading, and it means, at least to me, that I cannot wait until things get hot to join a protest or judge what appears to me to be good times as a signal to quit learning or working. Anti-racism means there's no barometer. We step onto this path and we keep going. I'll end by noting that, as you all know, the COVID era has made it darn hard to keep our little ones socialized and engaged. And what better example is there, I think, than showing them what the eighth principle calls for, to say, here I am, an adult, making new friends. Because sometimes you'll have to make new connections and new friends. And it takes a kind of energy and a kind of work to do that, to form a new connection, to listen deeply, to share our mistakes and do better, to include people you barely know into your circles, and to know that there will always be new things to learn, even about yourself. To that end, given my own personality quirks, I can attest to the frazzled and blurry sensation that ambiguous and open-ended agendas or journeys cause me. But so be it, I'm going to have to get uncomfortable then. So if your question is, I support the eighth principle, but how will things change? Or what are we going to do? I don't know, not exactly. I do know that we'll prepare ourselves constantly to be with each other in such a way that we are always already being that change, and we're ready when big challenges are at hand. So that's it. That is why I am involved. Thank you for listening.
Sometimes when I need a quick summary of what Unitarian Universalism is all about, I say this: love, not fear. Love, not fear. Over the years, as I've tested this phrase again and again, it still feels right. Love, not fear, is what our Universalist ancestors named when they said people want to do good because that is who they are, not because they are afraid of the eternal punishment of hell. Love, not fear, is what our Unitarian forebears evoked when speaking of the continual openness of questioning our understanding of the world, not being afraid to test what we know and believe. Love, not fear, is at the core of reasoning for adopting a principle that explicitly calls us to dismantle racism and other oppressions. So often in our culture, we have turned to not talking about something as a way of pretending it doesn't exist. These campaigns are still raging right now. People lobbying against critical race theory and discussions about LGBTQ issues in our schools. Movements that are working to prevent difficult conversations about historical and current realities. Movements that do all they can to erase people and all of who they are. If you have ever been on the receiving end of being erased, you may recall how it feels. Maybe you went to fill out a form and the boxes provided didn't describe your gender identity or your family situation or the complexity of your racial and ethnic identity. It was as if you did not exist. That's just one tiny example. At the very least, the eighth principle helps us name that racism and other oppressions exist, that they need to be acknowledged. We know this to be true. Just being able to name them as a core part of our faith is an act of love. Love, not fear. Love, not fear, is at the core of the living tradition that calls us on an ongoing quest for truth and meaning. I have been a Unitarian Universalist all my life, and it has always felt spacious in the way it has allowed me to grow and change in my understanding of the world. It has, at times, also made me uncomfortable in the way growth does, since central to that ongoing quest is learning from others who have different experiences and perspectives and might call me to consider some things I have never considered before. Sometimes I think about some of those changes. I think about how Reverend Barbara Peskin was the first open lesbian to be called to one of our predecessor congregations, Beacon Church, in 1984. It was celebrated, but she was not allowed to talk about what it meant to be a lesbian in a sermon. In 2014, we had a big gay wedding right here, celebrating the commitment of 10 same-gender couples after same-sex marriage was legalized. We have a Rainbow Connections group now exclusively for those who consider themselves part of the queer community. 12 years ago, when we started offering OWL, Our Whole Lives, values-based sexuality education, to our first graders, there was one picture book available about gender expression, about a boy who liked to wear dresses. No one that I know was openly identifying as transgender or non-binary in our congregation. We have now totally revamped how we talk about gender identity and biological sex, and we mostly remember to use pronouns when we introduce ourselves, and there are many who identify in all places on the gender identity spectrum among us. We have had 90 people participate in Beloved Conversations since 2015. Conversations about race and ethnic identity. We have a BIPOC friends group specifically created for those members who identify as such. There are those who are actively part of the national and local chapters of BLUE, Black Lives of UU. I distinctly remember the first time at United Lutheran when we had a teach-in and used the term white supremacy culture in our congregational discourse for the first time, and so on. Each time we have opened our hearts and minds and spirits to one another, both individually and as a congregation, we have done so in love, not fear. Not that we weren't afraid of some change, but we held on to love, and it helped dispel that fear, at least enough for us to progress along a path towards dismantling some oppression in some way. Love, not fear. We have learned and done so much, and there is always more to learn and do. Engaging with the eighth principle reminds us of where we need to go on that ongoing quest for truth and meaning. It also reminds me of the core of why I do what I do, love. When I think of the people in my care as your minister, especially our young people, I think about how fiercely I want to protect them, to make sure that they are enfolded in the arms of love and care so they can fully be who they are. I can only do that if I can keep on working on what that love means, dismantling all those systems that prevent them and us from fully being who we are. And of course, it is fully our job too as Unitarian Universalists to live out that core principle of our faith. Love, not fear. So we that can truly become a diverse, multicultural, beloved community. Love, not fear. And so may it always be.
Love, not fear. My name is Magane Koshimura. I'm a member of Unity Temple for 6 years. Each week, Unity Temple gives our Sunday collection to an organization that aligns with our Unitarian Universalist values and is committed to bringing compassion, justice, and equity to the world. This week, our offering goes to DRUM. DRUM is a diverse and revolutionary UU multicultural ministries, the oldest continuous Black, Indigenous, and people of color organization founded in 1997 by religious professionals of color. Their mission is to overcome racism, empower their diverse ministries, and transform Unitarian Universalism through their multicultural experiences. DRUM has been instrumental in starting and organizing Unity Temple BIPAC group for the last 3 years. You may donate by placing cash or check in the donation box in the front pew on the main floor, or by sending check to the Unity Temple office with DRUM, D-R-U-U-M-M, on the memo line, or by following the instructions on your screen. Thank you for generous donation. May what you give bring you joy.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working
I only have one spoon. One spoon to pull out the layers of oppression that we have piled upon the soil of our country and this world. My spoon doesn't do much by itself, but if you have a spoon, and you, and you, and you, and all of you, maybe together we may uproot what has harmed and polluted our soil for far too long. Together may we answer the call to clean our soil, that we might grow the roots of love and justice in our world. Amen.
Please join with me in the words of our chalice extinguishing. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.